Close your eyes and picture Ghanaian music. What do you see? Big drums, energetic dancing, and melodic singing. If that's what you see, you are right. That is the image of traditional Ghanaian music. Drums, percussion, and high energy have been part of the traditional setup of Ghanaian music for generations. Kologo, Agbaja, Adowa, Damba are all percussion-led form of dance music in Ghana. But let me shock you, Yaa Amponsa is the first recorded song in the history of Ghana. And if you don't know Yaa Amponsa is a Palm 1 highlife song that is mellow, mid-tempo, but still has melodic singing. So if Ghanaian traditional music is so heavy on percussion and drumming, why is guitar the most important instrument in Ghanaian music? I will tell you. But first of all, welcome to Juice and Nuts. This is a platform where I use African music as a vehicle to talk about African culture. And my name is Nenebi Tony. I'm a writer. My goal is to start documenting Ghanaian entertainment culture because for a long time, our story, our history is not being told. So today we are going to talk about something that looks big, but if I explain it, you realize that it's something that is in every form of world music. You'll be shocked how much you know about polyrhythmic fingerpicking. So let's get into it. I like to start with a little bit of story so it puts everything in perspective. Trevor Noah, the South African comedian, was on an interview with Clarkson, an American singer and TV host. And Trevor Noah said something about his upbringing in South Africa. And Clarkson said, you know what? I also had the same experience growing up in the south of the United States. But whenever I discuss these things with my friends up north, they are shocked that that happened. And Trevor Noah said, you know what? Whenever I meet people from the south of the US, it's surprising how much we have in common, especially in relation to our upbringing. And we all know the reason why. Of course, we all know the reason why. There are some things that are so connected to West Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa. For example, whiskey making. The way of making whiskey through fermentation and distillation is the way alcohol is made in West Africa, period. The way palm wine is made, the way pito is made in Ghana, the way apio is made, the way other forms of alcohol in West Africa, not just Ghana, is made is the same way whiskey is made. We know, if you know the story of whiskey, you know that Jack Daniels, who is credited as the father of Tennessee whiskey, learned his whiskey making skills from Uncle Nearest, who was a former slave. So what happened is these formerly enslaved people from West Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa took their whiskey making skills with them and showed it to the southern white people who made money off it. And whiskey is not the only thing, barbecuing, and more importantly, music making. The way country, R&B, soul, and rock musicians play guitar, that whole style of guitar playing comes from the American music tradition of blues. And guess what blues music comes from? Blues music comes from polyrhythmic finger picking. And what is polyrhythmic finger picking? That is what I'm about to teach you. Let's start with the origin of guitar in Ghana. We all know that guitar is a Western instrument, it's a European music instrument. So guitar came to Ghana through colonialism. When the Portuguese arrived in Ghana between the 15th and 17th century thereabout, the guitar probably came to Ghana through those 2 centuries. But before guitar arrived in Ghana, there were other forms of string instruments in Ghana. We had the seperewa among the Akan people. We had the kologo in northern Ghana. And even in Mali, they have the kora, which is something that is across the whole West Africa. But there's something interesting about the way West African string instruments are played. There are different types of musical instruments, but we are going to focus on string and percussion, which is drums. Percussion instruments are generally played with the hands or with a handheld stick. That's how you play drums. And string instruments in the Western world are played with a bow or a plug. The violin and the guitar are both played with either a bow or a plug, right? So West Africans didn't play string instruments with bow or plug. They played it with their hands. So the seperewa is played with a finger, the kologo is played with a finger, the kora is played with a finger. So there is no historical record of Europeans playing the guitar with their finger before they came in contact with West Africans. So when West Africans got hold of the guitar, it looks similar to the seperewa, it looks similar to the kologo. So they started playing it the way they played the seperewa and the way they played the kologo. So that style of playing is what we call the polyrhythmic finger picking. Polyrhythmic finger picking is a technique where each finger plays different rhythm at the same time, creating a layered drum-like sound on strings. So like we said earlier, West African music is driven by drums. So even if West Africans are playing string instruments, they want it to sound like drums because we like the boom, cha, boom, cha, boom, cha. Nobody want to hear ta-na-na-na. No, we want to hear the boom, cha. So in order to play the boom, cha on the guitar, they move the finger fast at so much high tempo. That is the meaning of the polyrhythmic. Poly means many. So many rhythms with the finger picking. So you pick your finger so many times to create that rhythm. So when that style of guitar playing was started in West Africa, it existed among West African communities and guitar became very popular. Guitar is the most popular form of music in West Africa, not because the guitar is better than the seperewa or the kologo, but because guitar is cheaper and easier to learn than the seperewa and kologo. You feel me? Music history in Europe is weird. European music is written music. And one thing about writing music is it is hard to be polyrhythmic if you're writing a song. Because when you're using sheet paper, there is very little room for versatility. So European music wasn't that versatile. But West African music, because it is oral and communal, it was more versatile. So when West African got hold of the guitar, they decided to turn the guitar into a versatile music instrument. And that is what created the polyrhythmic finger picking. The first song ever played or recorded in the history of Ghana, like I said earlier, is Yaa Amponsa. Yaa Amponsa was recorded by Kwame Asare, aka Jacob Sam. And Jacob Sam recorded Yaa Amponsa in London. So in the 1920s, there were no record companies in Ghana. Actually, radio was introduced in Ghana in 1935. But Ghanaians liked music so much, they started making music and wanting to record music before Europeans brought radio to Ghana. So European colonialism did not bring record making to Ghana. Ghanaians went and found record making because they love music so much. The British producers told West Africans that our drums were too heavy, they were going to break the Selak record. So we're told that the vinyl record which they record music with was too fragile or was too delicate. So when we play heavy drums in the studio, it's going to break it. So the only thing we could play in the studio was the guitar. So the early form of Ghanaian or African music did not have heavy drums because Europeans told us that the technology that existed at the time could not cater to heavy drums. But we'll get into that next week. And because it could not cater to heavy drums, they had to record it without the drums. So Kwame Asare had to make all these different instruments. He had to mix the seperewa, the fontomfrom, the etumpai, the conga, and every form of drum on that one guitar. And that is what bettered the Palm Wine Highlife record. So in the 1920s, when the Palm Wine Highlife dropped, it was something special. It was a high form of Ghanaian ingenuity because we made something out of nothing. And it became popular among elite Ghanaians. So when the British noticed that Ghanaians are paying money, because let me tell you something, the price of a record or a sound system in 1920s was double the salary of the highest paid person in Ghana at the time. So people had to work for years to buy a single sound system, and they did it. So the Europeans realized that these people love music so much, they were willing to do anything for music. So British and other European record labels started signing Ghanaian artists. And so that is how highlife music started transmitting across Ghana. And even it's the same story-ish in Nigeria. Juju music and hymns were the first form of recorded music in Nigeria because Europeans told Nigerians the same thing. You cannot record drums. It was the same thing in Sierra Leone. That's how Maringa music also came from Sierra Leone. It didn't have heavy drums because Europeans told them the same thing, right? But we will find out later, thanks to African Americans inventing funk, that you can actually use drums and high energy in music and the record won't break. But we'll get to that next week when we are talking about how energy started becoming part of the record in Ghana. From the 1950s, when Ghana became independent, Kwame Nkrumah realized that music was a good vehicle for promoting the Ghanaian identity. So Kwame Nkrumah started giving scholarship to Ghanaians to start going abroad and learning how to make music. Ebo Taylor was one of the people who was given scholarship by Kwame Nkrumah to go to London and learn how to make music. And Ebo Taylor, when he was in London, met Fela Kuti, and they created what will be the early form of Afrobeat that will come back to West Africa. So Ebo Taylor came back to Ghana and infused the local traditional guitar playing with jazz and funk to create what became known as the highlife outside of palm wine highlife, right? So Ebo Taylor became one of the fathers of highlife and the fathers of Afrobeat because he fused the traditional Ghanaian music with the Western form of music. And why was it so easy for him to do that? Because like I said earlier, we had to learn to do several things on the guitar. So the Ghanaian musician from birth had to learn how to play multiple music forms on that one instrument. That is why Ghanaian music is so versatile. That is why Ghanaian guitar players are so versatile. That is why Ghanaian guitar players are some of the best guitar players in the world, because we play guitar from a way that from the origin had to be versatile. Versatility is the highest form of creativity. So because Ghanaians have versatility, we have the highest form of guitar playing. So Ghanaians are the best guitar players because we are versatile. And this is my series on the history of Ghanaian music. Today I thought I should lay the foundation of Ghanaian music, which is guitar. Next week, we are going to add the energy. And we are going to add how energy and drums were finally allowed to be part of Ghanaian music. It will be another fascinating story. So what did we learn today? The polyrhythmic fingerpicking is the father of West African music because it is the father of highlife music, Afrobeat music, Juju music, Maringa music, and all other forms of West African music. However, polyrhythmic guitar playing is also the father of American music. If you know one thing about history, you know that in the minds of Europeans and Americans, history started in Europe and America. So everything that happened in the world before it got to Europe and America didn't happen. So while the polyrhythmic fingerpicking was happening in West Africa from the 15th century all the way till the 19th century, the first recorded history of the polyrhythmic fingerpicking is credited to the origin of blues. And blues started in Mississippi and Appalachia in the south of the United States. So these formerly enslaved people, or even, I think they were still slaves when they started playing blues, brought with them the complicated guitar playing technique from West Africa when they came to America and created blues. And that is usually recorded as the origin of the technique. But we all know it didn't start there. But I credit the African Americans for carrying it with them and globalizing it. Because blues is the father of country music. Blues is the father of rock music. Blues is the father of jazz music. Blues is the father of pop music. blues is the father of hip-hop music. So all form of popular American music takes their origin from blues music. And blues takes its origin from West African music. So basically, all I'm saying is we are everybody's dad. When you see any West African musician in the street, call them daddy. Okay, I'll see you next week. Please subscribe to my channel. All I'm trying to do is keep record of African culture and share it with the world. And also comment, let me know what you think. If you disagree with me, that's okay. Let me know your disagreement. And also share with your friends. Tell Nori about me.